I would like to give a big welcome to Gloria Battini. Hi, Gloria.
Hello. Hi, Kristen. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. I was watching you on Instagram. I'm like, I love this girl. I love her vibe. I love everything about her. And I know that we're going to have such a powerful conversation. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Share with us a little bit about your backstory that led you to helping others to heal from toxic, emotional, and narcissistic abuse.
Yes. So as I know this happens to pretty much every coach, but it starts with your experience, right? We experience something and then we crack it and we're like feeling better and heal, and we feel this desire and urge to help other people do the same, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I was in first of all, in childhood, I really struggled with, I was bullied a lot. So I really grew up with a very low self-esteem. I grew up in a culture that was very much about looks and about weight. I grew up with those comments around me constantly. Which obviously affected my self-esteem and everything. And I do believe that in a way, if I hadn't experienced that, I would never have fallen into the hands of a narcissist. I believe, I believe that everything starts very early in life.
Yeah.
But anyway, then I'm 18 years old and I am there with this very low self-esteem. All I want, I mean, everybody wants to be loved, right? At any stage of life. But when you're 18, it's like, I really want to be loved, right? I really want to feel this, especially if you have been bullied a lot and this kind of stuff. So it happened. I meet this guy, we're the same age, and he's like telling me everything that I've always wanted to hear. You're beautiful, you're so special, I feel so great with you, I believe there's nobody else like you in the world, like all those things.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh wow, I found the person. Nobody ever understood me. I felt like I could talk to him. I felt like I felt like I mattered, right? I felt very special, very important. He was, now I know that that's love bombing, right? But then I didn't. I didn't know what that was. So it was all about the big gestures. It was all about showing off, how much you mean to them, how much I meant for him. And then we stayed together for a very long time. And then after a few years, we had this sort of rough patch where I saw some behaviors that I started waking up to a few things, right? I started observing a few things and not feeling quite all right with it. And as I was starting to externalize those things, I was shut down. Oh, no, you're imagining it. No, that's not how it went. This is not how it works. Blah, 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 blah. Until then I decided, no, this isn't going to work for me. And I decided to break up with him. And this is about 6 years into the relationship. 6 years into the relationship, yes. And then we stay apart for like a month or so. And then he really is trying to like get me back big time. And he knows that I am not happy where I am, that I really want to find a job for what I was studying, which was events at the time and everything. And I should say that I originally am Italian. And I was still in Italy at the time. Now I live in London. I've been here for the past 11 years. So the situation in Italy with jobs after you get out of uni, it's really tough. There wasn't really very much opportunity. So he came to me and he knew that I would love to have had an experience abroad. And he said, let's move away together. I promise you I will change. This is our real chance, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, I was like, fine, let's try again. And I must say that in the first year or so, a couple of years, I felt like things were changing. I do believe that it's also a result of the fact that we were away from family, living on our own for the first time. So in a way, you have to do certain things that you hadn't not done before.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little bit of a disguise into the whole situation. I thought he had changed. He asked me to marry him, and I said yes. And then when I said yes, and then after the wedding, everything really started to go bad. Yeah. Really bad. Really, really bad. Like I was literally alone in my marriage, like completely alone, gaslighted. I did not matter. Every time I wanted to work on our communication was because I was, but you don't understand, but this is the way it is. But, you're not, this is not true. You're inventing it, like this kind of stuff. And I developed severe anxiety, OCD. I was really struggling. I was married for about 5 years, 4.5 years. And yeah, I was really, really struggling. And I thought that my anxiety and OCD were relating to my job because I had a really high pressure job. I was an events director in central London, really high, fast paced job. So I thought that was all due to, that's where I could do it. And I had OCD, panic attacks all the time. And during panic attacks, I used to get really upset because he would shout at me. And and I would be like, I cannot help it. Like, I'm not faking anything. I literally cannot help it. And he would just be like, oh, stop with this bullshit, like this, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And and then I just, I decided that I couldn't cope with the OCD anymore. So I went and hired a life coach. She specialized in anxiety. And I remember, this is 2016. And I remember one of the first questions that she asked me, she said, tell me about your relationship. And still to that point, I said, oh no, thank God I have him.
Oh, wow.
Right. Wow. So I still wasn't awake. Right. I hadn't opened my eyes to this thing completely. And then 18 months, fast forward 18 months working with her, my OCD is almost gone. And so is my anxiety. But the thing that OCD does, and anxiety does as well, they keep your brain really fogged, right? They keep you from seeing stuff. 100%. Yeah, you're so much in your head. So when that was gone, my brain had space. And I could literally see clearly. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like, this is, this is real. Like, I'm not imagining those things. And every single time I realized I didn't know the word for it. Now I know that the word is gaslighting, but I started questioning those things when he was trying to change my reality. I would be like, that isn't what I said. Yeah. And he would try, no, I never said this kind of stuff. Like, you're telling me things that, and I could just literally like add up things that wouldn't make sense. Right. So I started to like really see, until I was to the point that, he's side of things really deteriorated. He started losing jobs. He was a while without a job. That wasn't for family life. That really wasn't sustainable. So I tried really hard. I even said to him, let's go to therapy together. Let's try to resolve this. He said he didn't need that I was the one that needed it.
Of course.
So I kept going.
That's so shocking.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I kept going to my life coach and I was like, brilliant. This is making me feel great and more and more empowered as I go. So yeah, I'm going to keep going. If you don't want to this train, it's your loss, right? So anyway, so I got to the point where I could really see that our paths were completely like separate. So I spoke to him. And I said, look, I literally, I'm very honest. So I just said the way that I was feeling. And I said, look, I feel like we're going into completely different directions. I don't know what to do. And he would just be like, no, but this is a phase, it's ups and downs. It's going to go better, blah, blah, blah. I asked his family. I asked for help to his family. I wasn't given any. Long story short, comes January 2018, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I just told him. And one of the most things that literally like made me go, wow, was we're having an argument. It's a Sunday. We're having an argument. And I just burst out. I was like, look, I don't love you anymore. I'm not in love with you anymore. I feel like I am drained. I've got nothing left to give. I don't love you anymore.
Yeah.
His reaction was, okay.
That was it? To you leaving, he just said, okay?
He said like, oh, okay. And then the days after, he went again with the love bombing and with really abusive, emotionally and psychologically abusive behavior of the narcissist. But right there and then, he was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Meaning, almost like he knew and he felt the same way. But then why are you not honest with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you wasting everybody's time? Like, I'm here, I've tried for years to work on this, and you're just there being like, yeah, whatever. Come on.
Do you think though, Gloria, that's kind of, let's talk about what really a narcissist is, because I've noticed that so many people just want to throw the narcissism word around. If anybody has a slightest inclination towards selfishness, people think that's narcissism. And I'm like, to me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. I see narcissism as kind of on a sliding scale. Like, you can have narcissistic traits, or you can be one full-blown MF. You could just be like, wow, what are you, or it can kind of move around. And for me, I feel like, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, it can feel like they can dip into it for a while and then pull out and then dip into it for like, it's so mind fucking.
Yeah, it is.
I believe. So let's talk about like, what's the definition of narcissism?
Right. So first of all, you're absolutely right. There's a huge spectrum. But also one thing that I really believe is that you don't need a diagnosis in order to recognize that somebody has abusive behavior, right?
They'll never get diagnosed. So forget that. You're not going to the doctor to get diagnosed.
Exactly.
That's the last thing they'll do.
Yeah, exactly. So even if there are certain, let's say there's a number of different narcissistic traits or narcissistic characteristics, which could be, the manipulative behavior, the gaslighting, it could be the love bombing, it could be the cycle, it could be the sense of grandiosity that they have, sense of superiority. Even if out of those like million things that they can have, they only have one or two, but it's still abusive behavior.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't make it okay, right? It could just be, but he's just doing that. Doesn't matter. It's still not okay, right? It's still not okay. And I think what really infuriates me is the fact that society accepts it to a certain extent. And I've helped so many women that have been in a narcissistic work relationship, work environment, and it was okay. And they were made to feel a certain way because they had a narcissistic boss. That isn't okay. That isn't a high pressure job. That's a toxic environment. Which is like, anyway, definition of a narcissist. A narcissist is somebody that has a very inflated sense of self. Okay. They have this sense of superiority where they feel above everybody else, right? They feel above other people. They feel that they should be treated in a different way, that they should be treated special, that they should have a special treatment. And they have a profound desire to feed this sense of superiority, right? This inflated sense of self. And it's not about believing in yourself. Please don't confuse that. That's a very different story. It's confidence is a completely different thing. It's about having this constant supply of somebody that is always there to tell them how great they are and how much, they mean, oh my God, you saved me. Oh my God, and very often those people are empaths. The people who the narcissists choose to feed on are empaths, because we want to constantly make everybody feel understood.
Yeah, we're nurturers.
Right, we're nurturers, correct. So they automatically get that from us because we're right.
Yes. And can I
And
jump in there real quick?
yeah.
From the two that I have been, and believe me, I didn't automatically slap a label on them. Okay.
Yeah.
I had other things that I thought they were, but as time went on and narcissists really became a bigger part of language and society and more common word out there, because it really wasn't. I mean, I'd learned about it in college, but when I really started to look closely and they talked about that grandness that they feel of themselves, the way the two that I was in contact with. So I really made sure that before I even thought that they're this, that I really thought they were this. So I do believe that I'm speaking about true narcissism here. But those two, they didn't walk around like they were hot shit. They didn't say it. Was yours saying it? Yeah. I think they feel that everybody's beneath them or lower or something like that. Does that make sense? Because they weren't like, oh, I'm hot shit, I'm so amazing. It wasn't that. How do you see that?
It's you're absolutely right. There is first of all, there's different types. There can be the narcissist that is extremely successful and puts this mask on as if they're perfect. They're not showing their vulnerability ever. There's that type, but there's also the narcissist who cannot keep a job, who will succeed at anything in life, right? So what's important here, and the main characteristics of everybody is, or every narcissist, is the deep manipulative behavior, right? For them, it's not about the relationship with the person. It's not the person that matters, is what they get.
Yes. Like before I interrupted you, we were talking about being the source. So let's go into that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about the sense that they get from them. And in order to get that, they use they put you through a very specific cycle that it uses this deep manipulation that then makes you lose your sense of self, makes you lose the perception of reality because of this manipulation. So I'll explain it. I'll give you exactly the examples. So the narcissistic cycle starts with the love bombing. So you're everything, you're perfect, expensive gifts, everything too soon. You're the person that I've been waiting for. My God, you're amazing. My life wouldn't be the same without you, blah, blah, blah. Very much, very soon. And you feel like you've almost been like, in a tornado. You're like, what is this? Right.
And for many women, that's the sweeping off the feet feeling. And I thought I won the lottery. Yeah. I literally was like, I won the freaking lottery.
Yeah.
All this pain in my past was for this moment. How lucky am I?
Yeah.
Biggest tsunami of my life came from that.
Absolutely. And this is what this love bombing does, is it makes you feel in a certain way. And when you feel happy, when you feel that you're finally getting the amazing thing that you were waiting for, that's when you open up. That's when you're like, oh, I feel like this is the one, I feel like this is amazing. I am just going to open up about my vulnerabilities because they're the one, right? Mm-hmm. This is where the DIB manipulation happens. When you open up, you give them access to your vulnerabilities, to your, not secrets, but to your most intimate
heart, like literally your heart.
Yeah, literally your heart. And that's when the discard phase starts, right? So they do this love bombing, and then they start sort of kind of like distancing themselves a little bit, right? Sorry, not the discard, the devaluation.
The what's that word?
Devaluation.
Oh, devaluation.
The discard is later on, sorry. So the devaluation is when they start distancing themselves a little bit, but they start showing you something different, but still going to appear less powerful than the love bombing you've just been through, right? So for example, they would start insulting you as if it was a joke, right? Oh, but don't you think that bum, if you're going to eat that cake, it's going to, you're going to get your bum is going to be bigger. And you'd be like, why would you say something like that? Oh, I was just joking. Come on, don't take it so personally, right? So, and that was just a silly example, but it could be.
They suck you in and then they start cutting you down.
Absolutely.
By laser slices. Like it's not big whaps to the head. It's this little tiny. Yeah.
And they use, I mean, insults disguised as jokes is just one example, but they use comparisons a lot. So they'll be like, oh, look at that other girl. How is she wearing that? Or how is she doing that? Or their exes. Oh, my ex used to do that so well. You can't do that. Even when it comes to like, for example, I'm thinking like,
oh my God, this was said to me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it, over a blowjob. Oh, well, so-and-so used to do it like this. I'm like, you're really comparing me to so-and-so? Well, guess what? You're not getting anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's the devaluation, right? So that's when they start like distancing themselves, but distancing, like you said, in a very subtle way. It's not about, they're not doing anything that's too strong. They're not doing, they're just throwing in those comments, those things that are hurting you. But because you've just been through the love bombing phase, you're like, oh, they are just joking, actually. Yeah. Right. And part of devaluation we can consider as well the gaslighting, when you're like, oh, come on, I really don't appreciate you making those comments about me. And they're like, oh, come on, I never said that. You've heard a different thing. I didn't use those words. I used different words. This is not what happened, right? So they distort your reality, right? And because you've opened yourself up and you trust them, which you have done in the love bombing phase, you've opened yourself up in the love bombing phase. When they are doing that, you're like, oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe I am being too sensible. Come on. They showed me that they loved me, so they would never do that to me. Must be me, right? Especially if you're an empath, because you're being like, oh my God, is it me? Everything, like, is it me? Is it me? Right? And then, there's a discard phase. And the discard phase is where they literally either break up with you, or, for example, my discard phase, what happened to me wasn't breaking up. For example, I was just, he wasn't coming to sleep in the same bed with me at night. So he would just stay up on the sofa, on computer, whatever. And I had expressed this many, many times, saying I didn't get married to sleep on my own, like I don't want this kind of relationship. And like, oh, I have insomnia here and there. I was like, well, you could do something about your insomnia if you really cared about this, right? So for me, that was a discard. The discard was like, that's it. I'm no longer interested. I had what I wanted. I have my supply. You're there. I married you. So we are married. There's nothing that, you're not going to divorce. You would think, but no, goodbye, I said. Anyway, so that was the discard in my case. In other cases, they just go away. They break up with you.
Cheat on you. Cheat on you.
Yeah, exactly. Cheat on you and all these kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what happens, and this is the real manipulation, is that the cycle starts again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then they would go from the discard and they will suddenly pop up again. So for me, for example, he would come to bed for like 2-3 nights in a row and be all like, oh, lovebirds and blah, 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 blah. and then then devaluate again, and then discard again. So they restart the love bombing, and then they keep you, they do the devaluation, discard again and again and again and again. Now, two things about this cycle. First of all, each phase can last weeks, months, years. There is literally no rule around that.
Wow.
Second thing about this cycle is the fact that you that are experiencing the cycle, you are being so deeply manipulated on a daily basis that it changes the programming of your subconscious. You start associating love with stress, with anxiety, with the ups and downs. So you think that in order for you to be able to have the love bombing phase, you have to go through the shit phases first, because he is going to come back and be good again. He's going to have the good version of him showing up again, right? And suddenly you are subconsciously addicted to this.
And I'm going to add to that, because as an empath, you know, we want to help everybody. So, oh, my poor sweet, he's only acting like this because he was adopted, or he's only acting like this because he was bullied in school. If I love him enough, he's going to, I don't know if you had that stuff going on inside of you. I didn't consciously have it in me, but I thought, you know, if I can just love him well enough, this will all smooth out. So I felt very easily sucked in back to the romancing stage, the charming stage, because it was like, oh yeah, okay, he's just gotten over his little moment of feeling insecure or what have you. And that's how I rationalized it in my head without knowing what was really going on.
Yes.
Experience like that?
Exactly the same here. Exactly the same here. I saw things, because obviously, I mean, I worked in events for 10 years, as I said, but I was always interested in how the brain works, in psychology, in mental health, this kind of stuff. It's always been a passion of mine. And so many people, when I studied events and communication, they're like, what are you doing? Why are you not studying psychology? You're literally clearly like made for that. But clearly I had to wait in my life. Other stuff had to happen before I realized that that was my actually true path and true call. So because I was always interested in those subjects, I knew that must have come from somewhere. Right? So, and a narcissist, how does a narcissist become a narcissist? Often they are children of narcissistic parents. It can be genetics, it can be, environment, it can be very different things. But I could see that there were certain dynamics in his family that I didn't know necessarily what the narcissistic abuse was at that time, but I could see that there were certain dynamics that weren't healthy in his childhood and stuff. So I did exactly what you said, like, oh, if I can only love him enough, if I can only show him that I actually can, that he's safe, that he can experience a good life and everything. But I didn't realize that in order to do that, I completely said no to myself.
Well, there's something that most of us know by now, is that the narcissist really does suffer from extremely low self-worth.
Yeah.
Right. So at the bottom of all of this is an extremely low self-worth. And for someone like me, I call myself everybody's cheerleader. I mean, I'm always like just the big love bomber. And you're so great and you can do, you can do it. You're so amazing. So when I noticed that in somebody, that was me wanting to be like, oh, I can help you build this back up again. But it was very different than someone who was, I don't know if the word's capable, but it's the word I'm going to use, or wanting to. It's different when somebody wants to, or is capable of, or isn't so far buried. When you try to help them build their worth, like you can kind of see them kind of growing. It's like there's a healthier look to it than what a narcissist is doing, because at the end of the day, they want all this source, all of us giving the attention to them, because they are so low, and it is a bottomless pit that nobody can ever fill, right? So where do you think, you said genetics or from environments, but have you noticed any traits that are really consecutive or things that have happened in their environments that would build a narcissist?
I would say when it comes to children of narcissistic parents, yes, like a lot. When it comes to children of narcissistic parents, there's always the child that is the golden child, and there's always a child that is a scapegoat, right? So the golden child is the one that does everything perfect, that they are amazing, and they, you know, can't do anything wrong. And the scapegoat is the one that does everything wrong. It's all your fault. You can never get anything right, blah, 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 blah. Those two extreme different behaviors from the parents can turn out, the golden child can then develop those expectations about themselves, right? And then develop narcissistic traits, but they can also feel the pressure and move away and recognize that their parents then are having an unhealthy behavior. So they're moving away from it, right? So it's always, I don't know, from what I've observed, it's always about the person. It's always about, I always say this, and I know that, and people sometimes tell me, no, stuff is not a choice in life. There are certain things in life that are not choices. I'm sorry, I strongly disagree with that. I really strongly disagree with that. Everybody has a choice every single day, right? Do you really want to make that joke?
Yeah.
Really so hurtful for somebody else? You have that choice, right? And you can make it or not make it. And I think that is the different choice day after day after day, then makes you have a different behavior in life and makes you become a different person. But it always, to me, I'm sorry, but to me, it always is down to choices.
Well, I think the same thing, because unless it's something with like schizophrenia or something that's truly a mental disorder, but they're calling this narcissistic personality disorder. So is this actually a mental illness? And I'm just asking, like, let's banter this back and forth. Like, is it literally a mental illness that you need medicine for? Or is that you formed a groove in your brain to get your needs met in a certain way? It feels like the latter to me, because I do think they have, otherwise we're going into sociopathy, where they don't have any, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Not empathy, where they don't have any, when they know they did something wrong, whatever that word is.
Oh, okay. Guilt.
Where guilt and remorse. They don't have any remorse. We're kind of going into sociopathy at that point. But I'm like, it's kind of right under that. And I'm with you that I feel like if they keep getting fed, they're not going to stop.
Yeah.
But somehow the stakes become high enough, then maybe they will look at themselves. And again, it is on the spectrum of how bad they are, how toxic it really is, because I've seen where 80% of the person was really great, but that 20% was toxic as hell. So the person had like so much of this good person, but there was this, and it was really destructive. And that was a tough place for that person to navigate, because they didn't really there's so much good. When is it, so I know this, I don't want to say this all to confuse people, because my hopes in this is that people understand that if it's abuse, it's abuse. Yeah. Like Gloria said at the top of the hour, she said, listen, it doesn't have to be gnarly for it not to mess you up.
Yeah.
And you don't deserve it, correct?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because also another thing that they do, and thank you for saying that, is they will also make you think that you provoked it.
Oh, yeah.
They also make you think that what is happening is your fault. Well, hadn't you done that, I wouldn't have done that as a consequence. No, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. And this is again where I'm saying that it's all down to choices. I've worked with so many women in the past 2 years that I can honestly tell you, like, even people with narcissistic parents, you know, and a lot of my clients do, you know, I've worked with people who have made the choice to walk away. I don't want that in my life. I don't want to become that. I don't want to have that influence. And some of my clients have left their families when they were teenagers because they didn't want to be sucked in to that. So if a 16-year-old, if somebody has the choice, you know, if somebody has is driven to make that choice of going away, the narcissist must also be driven to choose that that's the better reality for them. Right?
Yes.
And I know, and definitely when there's a personality disorder involved, it's a different thing for sure. Like, you know, and I know that it's very rare, very, very rare, but there are some narcissists that would go and seek for help. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I believe that some can take some medications and stuff like that. So I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that there's a course of action like that as well, once you have a full personality disorder diagnosis. But as we said, the spectrum is so big, and some of those things are so accepted by society that you most likely never get a diagnosis, you know. And so then if you can only, how many traits does somebody need to have in order to get a diagnosis, right? How many things need to happen before it is acceptable to call it abuse? In my opinion, you know, the first thing is you know, abuse is abuse. There is absolutely no question about that.
That's so great that you said that, because I came to that conclusion myself, because there, you know, it's like, oh, so he called me a name, or, you know, I'm talking throughout my lifetime, or, oh, this one did that, or, oh, this one did that. It was very difficult for me to name it abuse, because I felt like it didn't cross a threshold. I felt like it had to be really bad in order to call it abuse. At this age right now, I'm like, sister or brother, because men are dealing with this too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, listen, that is abuse. And they just stare at me, abuse. And they're like, but nope. I mean, we have to name it. You don't have to make a decision at that point, but name it, claim it. This is what's happening. Because we're loving ourselves in that moment just by recognizing that's abuse. We're changing the automatic pattern that we've been in of just accepting the BS. And all of a sudden we're like, abuse. Okay, abuse. And we have to let that sink in, because there's also, I believe, I don't know with you, but in my particular case, is that I was kind of I grew up with 4 brothers. They weren't abusive. One used to be rough with me. We're great friends. We have an awesome family, but it's kid stuff. So I was kind of used to rough stuff and used to being called names, because my brothers would call me names. And so if a boyfriend called me a name, it didn't stand out as weird, because home called me names.
Yeah.
So we can tend to, you know, think it's okay because home was like that in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Since we're running out of time, Gloria, I want to, which of course I knew this would go by like 30 seconds. Let's just talk to the person who is having some aha moments right now. It makes me tear up. I feel so, I'm a mush, but I feel so sensitive to people that are putting up with this stuff. It just, I want to grab them, put them on my lap, the empath and lover that I am. And I want to say, you deserve better than this. So if someone is starting to wake up to this, because you're right, it is absolutely a waking up. It's like your eyes start to you're like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? What would you recommend as like the next best step? Like, what can they do? They're not even sure they want to leave, but they kind of are leaning that way. They know they feel icky. Like, what would you suggest?
Yeah, thank you for asking me this. I think it's really important. First of all, if you're listening now and if you have some questions popping up, definitely go and do some research. Get yourself familiar with what this is. And you'll see that if some questions are popping up now, it's very likely that this is what you're experiencing. So, go do some research, see exactly what is involved. And I have loads of stuff about that raises awareness on my own Instagram. So if you want to come over there and go through all my videos on there,
is it at Gloria Battini? Is that your Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram is at
and it'll
Gloria.
be in the show notes too, y'all.
Brilliant. So if you want to come over there, I have loads of videos that literally explain to you the behavior. There's a whole vocabulary around narcissistic abuse that it's really hard to understand at the beginning, but I've done loads of little short videos that actually tell you what each thing is. So if you want to go over there and just get yourself familiar a little bit with what each behavior is and what it means, I think that the opening yourself up to the awareness, that's definitely the first step. And then give yourself time, because it isn't about changing. I discover that this is happening and I'm going to live tomorrow. That's unrealistic. Okay. The best thing that you can do right now, if you realize that this is happening to you, start working on yourself, start giving yourself time just for you. And I want to share something that helped me a lot when I was going through all this. Yes, I had my OCD, which was the main reason why I hired my life coach. But in the meantime, I had decided that I was going to do something for myself every day. And just to nurture me, at that point, I was like, I don't care. I need to get healthy myself. I need my mental health to be on point, and I need to do something that is just for me. And I've always loved reading. For years, I had stopped reading, and I decided that I was going to dedicate my commute to work, which was about 45 minutes on the bus, every morning and every evening, to reading. And I was just reading book after book after book after book after book. But that's an activity that, first of all, allowed my mind to just go somewhere else, right? I didn't have to think about anything. I was just immersed in those stories. But it's also something that I've always loved to do since I was a child. So it gave me that nurturing, that inner child nurturing that I needed.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
Absolutely. Yes. And I tell you that the more things you do for yourself and to nurture the relationship that you have with yourself, the stronger you will become. So it doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It doesn't have to be half an hour. But if you have 10 minutes, use 10 minutes. If you have 5 minutes a day, use 5 minutes a day. But just cut out some time to spend with yourself. Yes. And put yourself first, and don't share that with anyone. Mm-hmm. Don't share it with a narcissist. Make it your thing. Yes. They don't know, because if the moment that they know, they will start attacking it, and they'll start making you feel guilty for doing it. Mm-hmm. So just keep it for yourself, And I remember, because I was reading, as I said, I was reading a lot. I was buying books, and all the books that I was buying, he was constantly criticizing. He was saying, why do you read this bullshit? Why do you? And I was like, I just enjoy fucking reading. Can I just,
Were they self-help books or were they novels?
They were. I'll tell you, this is fascinating. I believe in the law of attraction so much, and manifestation so much. Mm-hmm. And I was attracted to books about people that were struggling with mental health. Wow. It was all about teenagers or people in their marriage or this is me being unaware at the time, right? Yeah. And then I looked at it for years and I'm like, oh my God, this is what I was reading about. I was reading about stories about people that were making it, that were struggling with some sort of like mental health, struggle, that had some sort of mental health struggle or emotional struggle, and how they were going through it. And it was so fascinating when I made the connection. I was like, oh my God, that you literally give yourself what you need, right? Yes. You just naturally attracted to what you need. And I do believe that if you are here today and if you are listening today, and especially if it's something that came out of the blue and you've just been attracted by the title on there, I do believe that there's a reason why that you're here. And maybe it's not for yourself, maybe because you have somebody else that you know that might be going through this. But there is always a reason why something pops in your life, and maybe you need to hear it. So the two things that I would say, it's definitely get yourself familiar with what narcissistic abuse is, read about it, and then dedicate some time for yourself every day. As I said, I read. If you enjoy baking, do that. If you enjoy running, do that. Do something that made you happy when you were a child, because that's going to make you feel safer, which is what you need when you are in an abusive, emotionally, mentally, or physically abusive relationship, is for you to feel safe.
And it's going to start to rebuild your sense of self-worth, because it's been, remember, laser sliced off for years. And we don't even realize how depleted we are. But when we start refilling that, because sometimes it's very difficult, just like with physical abuse, you're so depleted. There's really nothing left. You're a shell, and you can't even muster up the strength to pack a bag to leave. And so many people judged abused people. And that's something that I'll stand on the mountain about, because until you're in that space, you don't get it. And same thing with the narcissist. Until you've dealt with this, someone won't get it unless you've had this exact experience. But I feel like what Gloria is saying is that knowing that, okay, I'm with this narcissist, I'm discovering this, I've researched this is making perfect sense. Now I need to look at me and how do I feel about me? And I'm really depleted. I am really depleted. So when you start to fill that back up again, what you're also doing, you're getting your strength back. You're putting some veggies in your body. And I don't mean this literally. You're putting some proteins, like on Naked and Afraid, when they finally get to eat some fish, they're like, I can feel this filling my body. And then they have the strength to go on again. Same thing. What she's saying is you fill that worthiness cup, start building yourself back up through this self-nurturing. And that's going to give you the strength if or when you do decide to leave. Otherwise, we're just like the shell.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it also takes building up that strength to ask for external help.
Yeah.
It might be that you do feel like external help is needed, but at the moment that's not the right time for you. That's why I'm saying start small, baby steps. Remember, like, this is about baby steps. It's about doing one thing for yourself every single day. And by the end of the year, you would have found 365 things that have filled your cup. And you will 365 times stronger for that. And when you are ready to seek external help, I can tell you that the help of a coach, and also, you can go to a therapist, a psychologist, a coach. It has to resonate with you. It has to be the right help for you, right? I tried to go to therapy. It wasn't working for me.
I hear that a lot.
It wasn't for me. The moment I start working with a coach, it completely changed my life. But I know other people that, no, coaching didn't work, so they prefer to go to therapy. But, it's just find something that resonates with you. Find the person that you're like, oh, actually, I feel like I vibe with that person. I feel like I want that person in my life. It will make my life better if I were to work with that person. Yeah. So find that connection. It doesn't have to be one thing. And there's also many, many spiritual ways as well. I know of people healing from narcissistic abuse in spiritual ways, with spiritual practice. So initially, like, if there was one size fits all, there would be, but there's so many different healing practices that you can literally just choose whatever best for you. I'm conscious of time, I know, but I just want to say something, because this is experienced by literally 99.9% of the people that I talk to, of my clients and everyone. One of the main things in the aftermath of narcissistic abuse is a complete loss of identity. Okay, you do not recognize who you are. You don't know what you like anymore. I've had many clients are like, I'm in a shop, I have to buy clothes or I have to buy dinner, and I don't know what I want. Okay, this is the result of that as well. So if you feel like you don't know who you are anymore, if you have a vague memory of who you were, please know that this is what happens when you go through something like this. It literally takes away your sense of self, takes away your identity.
Yeah.
So please know that feeling that you're having, it's normal, and it can be healed.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing too, is the shame that you might feel about this. A lot of people are ashamed. Like, I don't even want to tell anybody that this is what my partner or husband is like. And it's embarrassing, and you made a mistake, and this is what we're thinking. And oh my God. So we build up all this shame about it. So we tend to stay quiet about it. I really want people to give themselves permission to know that they didn't know, that they've been duped, that they've been conned, that it's nothing to do with you. Before I knew the term narcissist or really embodied that, I called it a con artist. I couldn't see it any other way, because I felt like it was a con, like you're selling one thing, but you're something else. It felt like a con to me. So the best of us are conned. I know human nature inside and out. I am a empath, energy reader, intuitive, and I was conned. It's possible, and it's okay. And I want to take the shame off of this. If you are feeling shameful, give yourself permission to know that you just didn't know, that you were duped by the best of them, but now you do know. And it's about time. You can rise back up again. You can heal from this. You can go on to have an amazing relationship in your future. This is not going to define you. You just got sucked into this trap, like Gloria and I both, and millions of other men and women have been sucked into. So please just try to understand that you're okay. It's okay if you've experienced this. There's nothing wrong with you because you've experienced this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. I myself didn't say anything to my friends and family until I left.
Me too.
That felt comfortable. I was like, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm getting a divorce. And she was like, what? Like, I completely out of the blue for her. And that's when I opened up, but I had to feel comfortable myself first. And it took a long time.
That leads me, oh, go ahead. But after that, I have one more question.
No, that's it. Yeah. So it took a long time before I got there. Yeah.
Did your ex have your family and friends duped? Because a lot of times they're like, what do you mean? So is amazing. We love him. And like, they can't even wrap their head around what we're saying. Did you have that experience?
I didn't. However, two things happened. So earlier on in the relationship, he started telling me that the people around me weren't good enough. My mom didn't have the best interest for me. My mom has narcissistic traits as well, by the way, but he would put me against her. He would say that my friends were stupid. He would literally like belittle the people around me, the people that I valued, the people that were my best friends and my close circle. And then when I left him, that I spoke up, I spoke to my family and I spoke to my friends, everybody told me that they never liked him.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they noticed.
Yeah.
And no, in my situation, they were like, no way. No way. I'm like, way. And one person said to me, can you believe this? Because the charm was so real. Come on, you had to have done something. I'm like, I mean, I was absolutely blown away. I'm like, I'm listing off this stuff. And this person was so, what happened there, just so listeners might understand, is that person, my family member, was embarrassed because they were duped. So they're like, no, this can't be real, because it made them feel embarrassed for being sucked in by this person too. So just know, if you're not going to get the kudos and we see it too, and the validation right away from your family, that doesn't mean it's not real. Trust yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Trust yourself. And you always have that little voice within that tells you that something is off.
Yes.
Listen to that voice, because that's the intuition that they are trying to shut off.
Yes.
They are trying to suppress that. They are trying to make you suppress that, because if you don't, you are going to open your eyes and you're going to walk away, and you're basically going to unmask them.
Yes.
Something that they don't want, they never want.
No, no,
So,
no.
so listen to the voice.
So Gloria, let's real quick, we're at the end of the hour. Can you share with us where they can find you? We talked about Instagram, but maybe throw out your handle, throw out your website and, you know, a freebie that you might have available, how to contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to know more about this, as I said, I have loads of free content on Instagram. My handle is at Gloria Battini. And over there, you can find all my links as well to my website. I have a free download, which is literally a guide on how to get over a narcissist for good. And I cover all of the red flags, all of the behaviors, all of the ways that you can, not all of the ways that you can break up, but at least 3 ways that you can break up with a narcissist. And then the whole process of healing, what's involved and what are the different stages and stuff. So it's really good. I'm very proud of that. So if you want to go, it's a free download. You can get there on my links. I also have a membership for survivors, and I have a group of women that have all been through this. As Kristen and I were saying, it's very hard to explain to people what you've been through, and a lot of people won't understand it. And that's why I created this survivors membership, because I wanted women to have, this is for women only, and I wanted them to have a place where they felt understood, where if they were to come on and say, oh, I can't go no contact, I can't do this, they had a safe place where people would understand the reasons why they cannot do that, right? And we have coaching calls every month, where, you know, we go through the different healing process and stuff. So yeah, we have a group chat as well. So you're more than welcome to have a look at that as well, if you feel like this is something that floats your boat. But otherwise, please message me on Instagram. I'm literally there all the time, and I love chatting to people. You don't have to be my client to reach out, to be honest with you. I'm not one of those. If you have any questions, please do. I'm super happy to help.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gloria, for being here. I love the work you're doing in the world. You're the real deal. Beautiful inside and out. I just really appreciate you for being a guest here today. Thank you.
Right, I catch you. Thank you so much for having me.